Every 4 years in the United States, we conduct our presidential elections. It is one of the greatest showings of representative democracy in the world, where each voter gets to cast their vote for the candidate of their choice. Or do they? My name is Hunter Morris, and I will be talking about the Electoral College and how it might be holding democracy back. My agenda for this presentation is to answer these 4 questions. The first being, do we as voters really have accurate representation for the votes that we cast? The second being what the historical justification for the Electoral College is. The third, is the Electoral College the most democratic way to conduct our presidential elections? And the fourth, if it's not the best option, what should we do instead? My thesis in this project is that the Electoral College is antiquated, and to accommodate for more modern elections, Congress should reform the Electoral College to be more democratic and allow for direct voting in presidential elections. Some background on the Electoral College. In the United States, we assign a vote total to each state through the basis of population, but really this happens through the basis of congressional districts. Each state is awarded 2 electoral votes for their senators and an additional vote for the amount of representatives that they have in the House. The holder of the plurality of votes in each state receives all electoral votes in the state, known as the winner-take-all system. Some issues that we have with the Electoral College is because each state gets 3 votes, some of them don't meet the population threshold to warrant that minimum. As a result, they will be overrepresented compared to larger states like California and Texas. An example of this would be Wyoming, who only has less than the amount for 1 congressional district. The winner-take-all system also discourages campaigning for any votes in states that you don't have a chance of winning the plurality. It also discourages the emergence of third parties because you need to have a national coalition to build any traction in the Electoral College. A large presence in one state is not enough to make any real impact on the election. The impacts in campaigning can be seen when we look at the 2000 election, where, as Edwards researched in his study, Wisconsin had 36 total visits from presidential and vice presidential candidates. In contrast, South Carolina had 0. The election would end up being won by George W. Bush, who did not win the majority of votes nationwide, but did win the Electoral College through a controversial recount in Florida. What we can see from this is that it doesn't incentivize candidates to campaign to all demographics across the country, but only important ones in swing states and swing cities that matter. The Electoral College can also be tied back to slavery because at the Constitutional Convention, Southern states argued that they should be able to include enslaved people in their population numbers to bolster their power in Congress, according to Chappell. So, they would be allowed to receive more electoral votes for the population that they had in their state, while disenfranchising that same population. So, there are 2 commonly proposed solutions for the Electoral College. The first being to eliminate the Electoral College entirely and move to a strict popular vote system. Or, instead, we can keep the Electoral College but eliminate the winner-take-all system. This would mean that we could calculate votes based on either congressional districts or the proportion of votes that each candidate receives in that state. The first solution, the popular vote, was proposed by Gouverneur Morris at the Constitutional Convention when he stated, the executive ought to be elected by the people at large, by the freeholders of the country. This is according to Kesar. However, some would say that the state-run electoral system at a federal level could be corrupt, similar to a Russian election, and this is according to Hardaway. Instead, the solution that I would propose is the one that already exists in Maine and Nebraska. In 48 of the states, the winner-take-all system exists, but in these 2, they will divide their electoral votes based on congressional district. This allows their share of electoral votes to be more proportional to the votes that are cast in their state. And according to State Senator John Kavanaugh, the people in the state of Nebraska have been clear that they like the system that we use. This concept could be voted on in other states by a referendum or amendment to the state constitution. This seems more realistic than a federal amendment of the Constitution passed through Congress, which would be used to eliminate the Electoral College entirely and institute a popular vote system. Some examples of this can be seen here, where Nebraska and Maine each have one district which is voted for the Democratic Party, but they award the majority of their Electoral College votes to the Republican Party in the rest of the state. In conclusion, I would prescribe that we adopt that system through a nationwide movement that would put this referendum on the ballot for voters to choose how they would like to split their electoral votes. Through this project, I've applied the class material using pathos, which is an argument through emotional appeal, by emphasizing the concept of fairness in voting. Of course, everybody wants equity in voting at its core, but understanding how we get there is important. Through this argument, I've also used a Rogerian structure, which acknowledges an array of possible solutions and counter-arguments. And my description of a Rogerian argument was found in Lunsford et al. Thank you, and here are my references.